A very common question on general average is, with the aid of example, explain general average and particular average. Average in maritime industry means a marine loss or damage suffered in a maritime adventure. Normally, there are two kinds of adventure. There is particular average and general average. General average is the oldest form of spreading of risk by all the interest of maritime adventure, namely ship, cargo, and freight. Freight is at risk when it is to be paid at the destination, and it is not at risk if it is prepaid. An example for that will be in the days of sailing ships when the ship has encountered a broadside wind, the ship is heeled over, and if corrective actions were not taken, the ship can be capsized. In order to prevent such mishap, the master ordered to jettison of the cargo. This lightened the ship, increased the freeboard, increased the range of stability, thus preventing imminent disaster. Now, who was to suffer the loss of the good jettisoned? Was it to fall on the unfortunate owner of the jettisoned cargo? Equity demanded that all those who benefited by the sacrifice of jettisoned cargo should share the sacrifice, that is, the ship owner and the other cargo owners whose properties have been saved by the sacrifice. Thus, they should all contribute to in the ratio of the value of the property saved by the jettison. This was the unwritten law of the sea and still is the common law of all maritime countries. General average exists irrespective of whether or not the ship, cargo, and freight, if at risk, are insured or not. And now the particular average. Particular average refers to partial loss or damage occurring to the ship, cargo, or freight in consequence of some fortuitous, coincidentally by chance, or unavoidable accident, and which is insured. For example, bottom damage, propeller damage, or directly cargo getting damaged on board. Maybe a question: how do you define general average as per the York Antwerp Rules 1994? So, as per York Antwerp Rules, there is a General Average Act if and only if there is an extraordinary sacrifice or expenditure is intentionally and reasonably made or incurred for the common maritime safety for the purpose of preserving from peril the property involved in a common maritime adventure. Let's understand the situation of general average again. A general average situation arises when there is an extraordinary sacrifice, an extraordinary expenditure resulting from an intentional act which is reasonably made or incurred for the common maritime safety for the purpose of preserving from peril the property involved in a common maritime adventure. An example of extraordinary sacrifice would be beaching of the ship or scuttling the vessel in shallow waters in order to avoid total loss by sinking. Sacrifice the ship by flooding the engine room or firefighting operation in the engine room can give rise to a general average sacrifice on ship. When the ship's engine are used to refloat the ship, the resulting sacrificial damage to the main engine and the auxiliaries are example of general average sacrifice on ship. Examples of sacrifice to cargo: jettison of the cargo, damage to the cargo caused by water used to extinguish a fire. In this example, damage to the cargo due to fire will come under particular average and should be borne by the cargo owner. Example of extraordinary expenditure: general average can take the form of an extraordinary expenditure as well. In case a ship carrying cargo is disabled due to the main engine failure which cannot be repaired, the use of a tug to tow the vessel to a port of refuge is an extraordinary expenditure to the extent that there are no savings in fuel and other costs, such as due to the port of refuge being on the same course as the intended voyage. The extraordinary expenditure of entering the port of refuge, provided it was not a port of call or port of destination, such as pilotage, light dues, etc., will also form part of the general average expenditure. Now, finally, a recap of the essential ingredients of General Average Act. There must be more than one interest in the maritime adventure, that is, ship, cargo, or freight. Then, the sacrifice or expenditure must be made or incurred intentionally or voluntarily. Then, the third, sacrifice or expenditure must be made or incurred reasonably. Then, fourth, sacrifice or expenditure must be made or incurred in a situation of peril. which threatens the common maritime adventure, that is, all the interests. Finally, the sacrifice or expenditure must be made or incurred for common safety, that is, for preserving from peril all the interest, that is, ship, cargo, and freight if at risk. To clarify the difference between particular average and general average, particular average is a partial loss proximately caused by peril insured against and which is not a GA loss. For example, ship running aground, bottom damage, ship owner claims from insurance company. This was not intentional, no peril existing, not voluntary, and no sacrifice involved. And general average need to qualify all of the above. Particular average involves only a particular party, where GA involves all the parties of the adventure. Damage done to the engines while afloat to prevent her from grounding is considered ordinary and will be a particular average, whereas damage done to the engines when aground and trying to refloat her would qualify for a GA. Jettisoning enough cargo to refloat her when aground will qualify for a GA. Beaching a leaking ship to prevent her from foundering will qualify for GA, whereas cost of repairs to the damage causing the leak, if caused by an insured peril, would qualify for PA. The explanation on York Antwerp rules and general average adjustment will be carried out in the next videos. Please leave your feedback through your comments. Thank you for watching.